Very good evening to one and all. Welcome to a webinar session brought to you by Project Step 1 on COVID-19, vaccines, myths and facts. I am Shuchin Bajaj, your host and a proud volunteer at Project Step 1. Today, we have our speaker of the day, the pillar and the backbone of Project Step 1 himself, Dr. Shuchin Bajaj, founder and director of Ujala Cygnus Hospital, New Delhi. Welcome, doctor. How are you feeling coming on the panel after a long time?
Thank you very much, Shruti. It's wonderful to be with you again after a very long time. But yeah, it's been a good time. Working with Project Step 1 has been, I think, the one of the best years of my life ever, and the most hectic as well by far. But yeah, hoping and wishing that the second wave doesn't come in. So let's hope that in the next 15 days we'll get to see.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Before we begin, a small introduction on Project Step 1. So, Project Step 1 is a 100% volunteer-run free telemedicine service. We are a 9-month-old initiative that provides free telemedicine to COVID-19 impacted citizens across 22 states and India's 18 languages. We have touched more than 50 million lives through 2 million teleconsultations, and this has been possible because of a community of citizen volunteers, doctors, and of course our counselors. Dear doctors and volunteers, your 1 hour per day can save thousands of lives. So Project Step 1 is an impactful citizen and doctor driven initiative, and it needs to spread faster to be able to get COVID under control in India. So dear doctors watching this session, please give us a missed call on 08047192219 to join the largest doctor volunteer group. And citizens watching this webinar, please give us a missed call on 08061972266. Thank you so much. About today's session, as India starts its vaccine distribution, there are so many questions revolving around it. So we have our expert, Dr. Shuchin Bajaj, on the panel. Do leave your questions on the comment section so that we can get it answered at the end of the session today. Over to you, Dr. Shuchin, for this wonderful session.
Thank you very much, Shruti, and a warm welcome to all of you. Very happy to have you here. Just let me share my screen.
I think there is a network issue. Vishal, is Dr. Shuchin Bajaj here? Okay, he's here.
I think there is some technical glitch, so yeah, just let me share my screen again.
Right, no problem.
I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, we are able to see your screen, Doctor. Yes, perfect.
Okay, so we are here to talk about the vaccinations. Let me close my notifications for a. Yeah. So, see, the COVID-19 pandemic started very slow in India. Fortunately, the country didn't register its first case till early March. 3 returnees from Wuhan had tested positive in late January, but there were no cases between then and early March. India went in for a hard lockdown on 25th March, a day when it registered 90 new cases, taking its total to 657 cases with 11 deaths at that time. The lockdown would go on for an unprecedented 68 days. And when it finally ended on May 31, India had a total of 190,000 cases with 5,300 odd deaths. The cases, of course, soared after that. to peak on September 10th, when I think we registered 99,181 cases. Fortunately, COVID, like the Indian batsman lately, developed a case of the nervous 90s and did not go on to register its century and higher numbers after that. And mercifully, the cases started falling after that. The WHO recently put out a paper saying that this fall in cases was due to the wearing of masks by all Indians. But let me assure you that rural India, semi urban India is not wearing any masks. We run a lot of hospitals in Uttar Pradesh, Haryana. Nobody's wearing a mask there. We are running a lot of centers in Uttarakhand as well. I haven't seen anyone wearing a mask there. Uh, Nobody's wearing a mask at the farmers' protest just outside Delhi. So I think this is due to the fact that India, unlike the other top five countries who have been suffering from COVID, India is the only country that has not seen a second wave. Every other country has seen a second wave. We have continuously seen cases falling. I think the current caseload of around 11, 12,000 cases a day is less than, is about only 10% of what we were seeing in September. On the other hand, cases in UK, USA, Russia have grown a lot, and now they're just seeing the second dip. So this means that India now has less than 4% of the new cases in the world, compared to about 31% in September. The new cases came down from 2.6 million in September, which was more than twice the next country, that is the US, with 1.2 million, to around 740,000 in December and around 650,000 in January, which is much behind the US with 5.5 million cases, Brazil with 1.1, nearer to Russia with, and Turkey with around 7.5 lakh cases. In January, more than 50% of all cases came from just two states, Kerala and Maharashtra. So, uh, our luck, I hope, holds, because we don't really want to see a second wave, but it has already started massively in Maharashtra again. Amravati is seeing positivity rates of almost 40% now. This is compared to Delhi, which is has a positivity rate of 0.38% as of yesterday. So we saw so many super spreader events like Eid, Diwali, Christmas, Bihar elections, farmer agitation, and did not have the second wave. But now, in spite of no particular super spreader event, the second wave looks to be starting. Hopefully, we are wrong, and hopefully, it will die down very quickly, because we've been lucky in see so many aspects. In addition to not having that second wave, we've also had the lowest death rate at 1.4%, which is much lower than Mexico, which is like 8.8%, Iran is 4.6%, Italy and UK around 3.5%. So everything has worked well for India, in spite of all the doomsdayers that were saying that India will be like the worst affected. And hopefully it will hold the same for the vaccination. We'll have the best outcomes. So for the next couple of years, the world's most wide for commodity will not be a metal, will not be a currency, it will not even be time. It will arrive in delicate glass vials, each holding about 10 milliliters of the precious fluid, and everyone is looking forward to get one. So this is what we'll talk about today. Before getting on to the COVID vaccines as such, let us talk about exactly what is a vaccine. Vaccine is any inoculum that contains weakened or inactive parts of a particular organism, and that organism is then called the antigen, and this triggers an immune response within the body, producing the so-called antibodies that we keep talking about. Newer vaccines that have come in last year may also contain the blueprint for producing these antigens rather than having the antigen themselves. And this weakened version will not cause the disease in the person receiving the vaccine, but it will prompt their immune system to respond much as it would have on its first reaction to the actual pathogen. So the COVID vaccine, of course, has had an unprecedented timeline. Usually, vaccines take many years, sometimes decades, to develop. But the COVID vaccine has come out in an a timeline that is quite unbelievable. The development of the vaccine itself in the US was appropriately named Operation Warp Speed, or OWS, because it was only last January that the SARS-CoV-2 was sequenced. And within March, within 2 months, the first clinical trials had already begun. And in May, the first phase 3 trial began. Pfizer released its data in early November. By December, the vaccination had already started. And in India, of course, we started on January 16. So, why does it take so long for these vaccines to develop usually? Because, see, vaccines go through many phases, 6 phases of development. First is the preclinical phase. It is the very intensive, mostly doing desktop research, triggers the same immune response in experimental substance or synthetic antigens that trigger the same immune response. And once the vaccine passes through this stage, that okay, it is triggering an immune response in an experimental setting, in a desktop setting, the first phase involves only a very small group of 20 to 80 people, and it is mostly to see its safety, that it should not create any unwarranted adverse effects. Then phase 2 uh, determines the most effective dose that there is. Where is the efficacy? How much do we need to inject or give? How many times do we need to inject? So this is the second phase of the vaccine, in which we closely monitor the reactions, the number of doses needed, the volume of doses needed, the best route that is to be employed. Uh, After that passes this, we go to phase 3. So people who have been questioning, that I don't know whether this vaccine is safe or not, it's still phase 3 data is still not out. Please do rest assured that most of the safety features are taken care of by phase 2. So only vaccines that are very safe manage to cross phase 2. And all of the vaccines that are in use now have already crossed phase 2. So you don't really need to worry. In phase 3, we try the vaccine on thousands and thousands of people. So almost 80,000 people have been enrolled only by the Pfizer vaccine, and 60 to 80,000 in almost all of the vaccines. And it's a double blind study, so nobody knows whether you're getting the real vaccine or just a shot of water or saline, so that there is no bias to the results. So nobody knows what they're getting, nobody knows what they're injecting, and later on you get to see what is the exact data coming out. After this, once this data is achieved and once we see that the vaccines are safe and effective, the manufacturers go on to the regulatory bodies to apply for approval, and this is called as phase 4. You may get a full-fledged approval, or you may get only an emergency use authorization, which many of the vaccines have, which restricts where and how you can use the drug or the vaccine. Pfizer applied for phase 4 in India, has been sent back to get some more data. So Pfizer is still not licensed there. And phase 5 then continues for a long time. Even after the vaccine is approved and licensed, the regulatory agencies keep monitoring it, keep seeing how it is produced. They keep inspecting the manufacturing facilities again and again, testing the vaccine, seeing for side effects. So all that is done as a continuum for many, many years after that. So it is a big developmental process, and this is why it takes so long for the vaccines to develop. And we must give a standing ovation to the scientists who work day and night to constrict this process into such a short time. And of course, the technology available has helped a lot. We have a technology that is much, much, much higher and much faster than the technologies of the yesteryears. So that helps in development of the vaccines a lot. So the types of COVID-19 vaccines, there are six broad types, out of which uh, the inactivated vaccines are the oldest types of vaccines. They consist of the whole virus which has been killed, uh, which is the most common is the Covaxin that is being used in India now, developed by Bharat Biotech, and also the Sinovac developed in China. It is the oldest type of technology. You take the virus, kill it, and inject it in the body, and assume that it will develop an immune response. And of course, since it is dead, it will not create any disease. We've been using these types of vaccines for the longest of times. Hepatitis A is that inactivated type of vaccine. Inactivated polio virus, the shot that we used to get, the polio injections, that is and inactivated. The flu shot that we get, it is inactivated. Rabies is a type of inactivated vaccine. There are also the live attenuated vaccines, in which you don't really kill the virus, but you weaken it, right? So you weaken it in the lab and hope that it will produce an immune response. So of course, it will produce a higher response because the virus is still alive. But since it is weak, it won't create a full-fledged disease. Live attenuated virus vaccines, very commonly used again, MMR, rotavirus, smallpox, chickenpox, oral polio vaccines, yellow fever vaccines. All these are examples of live attenuated vaccines. Then there is a protein subunit vaccine, in which only pieces of the pathogen are used, often fragments of protein, to trigger an immune response. Risk of side effects is minimized because there is no virus, whether live or dead. There's only a small piece of the virus, and hopefully it will produce the same immune response. So subunit vaccines are also have been in use for quite a long time. Hemophilus influenza type B, hepatitis B, HPV, human papilloma virus, pertussis, pneumococcal vaccine, meningococcal vaccines. All these are types of protein subunit vaccines. The newer vaccines that have come in for just for COVID, and we have no precedence of their use earlier, are the RNA, DNA, and the viral vector vaccines. So very in the news, you have heard about all of them. RNA vaccines, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, in use in the US mainly. They introduce an mRNA sequence coded for a disease specific antigen. Once this antigen is produced within the body, it will recognize and trigger an immune response. Similar with DNA, instead of the RNA, we put in a direct DNA plasmid, and the cells take it in and then produce the piece of the virus, which is most commonly a protein. So these vaccines are being developed by Sanofi and Inovio. And then there is a type of a vector vaccine, in which you take a piece of the COVID virus and put it in another virus. So in this case, AstraZeneca has used a chimpanzee adenovirus, and then you inject it into the body. So the chimpanzee adenovirus then carries the inactivated piece of the COVID virus into the cell, and there the immune response is produced against it. Of course, with the premise that since it is a chimpanzee virus, it will not cause a disease in humans. So Johnson & Johnson is also working on a type of a vector vaccine. So these are the six types of vaccines that are in use. Many people ask, why are they different? Why are we using different names? So this is the reason. Their technology is different. They've been developed differently, but all of them are safe. So doesn't really matter which vaccine you're using. So we in fact have hundreds of these types of vaccines under development: inactivated and weakened virus vaccines, viral vector vaccines, nucleic acid vaccines, and protein based vaccines in various stages of development. So we have a lot of vaccines under development, hopefully. So the production constriction that we are facing right now will be solved very quickly. So, as I said earlier, the trials do continue for a long time. Most of the trials that have started plan to continue till the end of next year, bare minimum, to see exactly what the efficacy data is, what the reaction data is. So, we will keep seeing data being published by these companies again and again. So, we may iterate and go back to what exactly is the data that we have. So it's a long process, and we'll need to be patient to get the final picture, which will most likely be start to get published around 2023. So these are the types of authorized vaccines that we see. The inactivated vaccines, as I said, the mRNA vaccines, the peptide vaccines, and the viral vector vaccines. They've been authorized in various states. So the Sinopharm is authorized in China, United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. The royal family of UAE took this vaccine. mRNA-based vaccines produced by Pfizer have been authorized in US, UK, Bahrain, Canada, Mexico, Singapore, Oman. Saudi Arabia has given full authorization instead of just the EUA, Kuwait, and the European Union. So the British royal family took this vaccine. CoronaVac, produced by Sinovac, has been authorized in China. Epivac, which is a peptide vaccine, has been authorized in Russia. Moderna, which is again an mRNA-based vaccine, is authorized in US and Canada. This is the most commonly used vaccine in the US right now, maximum number of usage. Biological Wuhan Institute has an inactivated vaccine which has been authorized in China again, and the Gamaleya Research Institute has made the Sputnik 5 vaccine, which is non-replicating and is authorized in Russia. It has been applied for in India as well, hopefully looking to get approval by next week earliest. So the vaccines developed in India, the first two are, of course, the most famous ones already in use. We have had more than 1 crore people now being vaccinated in India, 1.34 crore to be exact till yesterday. Covishield is the chimpanzee adenovirus vector, as I said, developed by AstraZeneca in Oxford, produced by our own Serum Institute Pune, the largest vaccine producer in the world. It has already been approved for emergency use authorization. Covaxin is an inactivated virus vaccine produced by Bharat Biotech Hyderabad in collaboration with ICMR, and that has also received approval for emergency use authorization. There's a DNA vaccine being developed by Cadila. It is just started phase 3 trials. The Sputnik vaccine, as I said, with in collaboration with Gamaleya National Center, Russia, it has already applied for emergency use authorization. Serum Institute is developing another type of vaccine, which is the protein subunit vaccine with Novavax. It is already started phase 3 as well. Then there are recombinant protein antigen-based vaccines, an mRNA-based vaccine, and inactivated vector vaccine also under development in Hyderabad, Pune. So these are the 4 major vaccines that are there already in use with emergency use authorization achieved across most of the countries, and Saudi Arabia even giving full use, full approval on December 11th. Rest all countries have just given EUAs, and full authorization is still awaited. So these are the approval statuses. As you see, mRNA, which are the blue boxes, and adenovirus viral vectors, which are the gray boxes, have been produced for the first time ever. The pink boxes are the inactivated virus vaccines, which of course have been in use for the longest of times, and this technology has been with us for more than 100 years. These are again the types of vaccines that are under development. So more than 280 different types of vaccines under development. So there will be no shortage of vaccines in the nearest coming future. These are the countries where the vaccines are undergoing phase 3 trials at present. Of course, we've heard of the South Africa trial, in which the efficacy dropped dramatically once the South African variant came in from 90% to 64%. But we'll talk more about that later. These are the vaccines that have been sourced per country, and these are the nations most eager to take a vaccine. No surprises there. The Chinese are the most eager to take the vaccine because they've been affected so much. But Russia and France, the vaccine hesitancy is quite severe and will need to be addressed, I think, by their governments very, very quickly. I think the Russian hesitancy is more due to the fact that the government has issued an advisory not to take any alcohol for 45 days post vaccination. And I don't think the Russians are very happy about it. So, vaccine analysis, as I said, Moderna, more than 30,000 people in the trial, Oxford, AstraZeneca, more than 20,000 people, Sputnik, more than 40,000 people in the trial, and Covaxin, again, more than 20,000 people in the trial. Every vaccine to be given in the deltoid intramuscular, two shots for each of them. Covishield, of course, Oxford, AstraZeneca, a lot of confusion whether to give it 4 weeks or 12 weeks. So, still, there is a doubt there. So, I've written between 4 to 12 weeks after the first injection. The Indian government still insisting on 4 weeks, but the company itself saying 8 to 12 weeks is the best to get the best response. So, this is the picture that I was talking about. India still has had only one wave, one peak, and that was on September 10th, as I told you, with 99,181 cases. Hopefully, this will not go up again, because if it does, unfortunately, the other four countries that have seen a second peak, it has been much worse, much heavier loads, and much more mortalities, much more morbidities. I think we already have had a tough time, and you all have been part of it. We've been all volunteering for it. The last year has been tough, so I am sure we don't want to see another year after this going that. So our hopes are pinned on these four candidates: the Oxford Zeneca, Zydus Cadila, Bharat Biotech, and Moderna. These are the vaccines that we are looking to make sure that we do not have a problem coming year. Three more vaccines are under development. The best one that I am looking forward to is the Mindvax, which is a Bangalore-based vaccine, and it remains stable for 37 degrees Celsius for over a month. So does not need any cold chains at all. And I think that will be a game changer if this technology comes in for our entire vaccination effort, the entire universal immunization program that we have, not just the COVID vaccination effort, but we also have the biological E vaccine coming in, and the Genova Pharmaceuticals genetic manipulation vaccine coming in. Very new technologies, very exciting stuff. So hopefully we can see these vaccines coming in another couple of months, and we'll see how it goes. So India, as we know, is a vaccine colossus, right? Uh, we do the universal immunization program in which we vaccinate 6 crore people every year with 12 different types of vaccines, not just one. So 3 crore newborns and 3 crore pregnant women. Every year we vaccinate them. And Serum Institute of India, of course, is the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines by volume, founded over 50 years ago. And we are looking to produce about 20 billion doses in 2021. But some manufacturers have pared back the numbers and have made some subtractions. AstraZeneca, for instance, has reduced their December projections, revised numbers. When they were projecting to produce around 400 million doses, but I think they produced only 100 million. Also, there may be a shortage of vials and syringes, even if vaccines are available in ample volume. So we only have, I think, production capacity of 12 billion syringes in 2021, which is almost half the number of the vaccine numbers that we are producing. So, and of course, syringes need to be used for a variety of other uses as well, in addition to vaccines, of course. So there may be a shortage there. And of course, 15% of the doses may be lost due to cold chains and logistics, and inability to use within the 4 hours of opening. So these are the things that I think we need to work on while thinking that what is the real model to follow. But we should remember that January 16 was the date that marked the beginning of the Indian vaccination drive to end the coronavirus, which is very close to another very significant date, which was January 13, which marked the and 1 decade of the country being free of polio. We had the last case on 13 January 2011, and polio, as we all know, paralyzed around 2 lakh children every year till the mid 80s. There was only one case on January 11, 2013. After that, we haven't seen any case. But we do remember that in the final years leading to polio eradication, we had around 2.5 million vaccinators visiting almost 200 million households every polio Sunday to give polio drops to the children. That was a huge effort that we used to make, and we can definitely replicate it once the government, I think, decides to open up the vaccination drive to a variety of players other than just its own model. The National Expert Group on Vaccine Administration, of course, the NEG-VAC last met, I think, yesterday to finalize the protocols and the processes for opening up the drive. They had met first on August 12, 2020, to iron out the creases in storage, distribution, tracking, administration, and monitoring for side effects of the vaccine. Uh, so I think the model will be tweaked and iterated very quickly. 1st of March, Monday onwards, these registrations are starting, and 8th of March, hopefully, the first vaccine will be given to everyone. So I will just give you the process of how this will be done, and then I'll just list out some FAQs that usually are being asked in all the comments that are coming in and all the people that are asking. And then if there are, of course, any other questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. So the process is that you register starting 1st of March on the COVID app. You can ask your children to register for you. You can ask your relatives to register for you. Anybody can register for you. You don't need to do it yourself particularly. And I think this is where step one will also play a big role, that step one doctors and step one volunteers can register people when they call them to ask them to register if they're not technologically very friendly with the device or the app. And once you register, you get an OTP on your number. You have to register with any identity document like a PAN card or a Aadhaar card or a voter ID card or a passport or whatever. But you need to carry that same document to get your vaccination done when you're going for your vaccine. So you will get an OTP, and after that, you will be registered, and then you will get an SMS telling you the time. Time is not an exact time, it's just forenoon or afternoon. So there won't be like a 10:30 a.m. schedule, but it will be like in the morning or in the afternoon. Date and the venue of your vaccination. You can also search for other venues on the COVID app by PIN code number. You just enter your PIN code and it will give you all the vaccination centers in that PIN code, and you're free to go to any of them. So it's not necessary for you to go to just the center that you were assigned once you've registered. And 50% of the people can also walk in. Like a center, if he has 100 appointments, 50 will be just appointment based, and the center is allowed to vaccinate 50 other people without appointment who are registered and who can just walk into the center anytime. So when you go there, the your identity will be verified by the identification document that you had used to register, and then you will be photographed, and then code will be generated that will be given to the vaccinator. The vaccinator will vaccinate you, and then you can take out your certificate by a QR code as well from the app. You will be asked to wait for 30 minutes after the vaccination to monitor for any side effects or any adverse events. And once those 30 minutes have passed, you can go home and you'll get another SMS telling you your next date of inoculation and congratulating you for this one. And the next date also, you can go to the same center or you can go to any other center around your area. So like maybe you were, for the first shot, you were in Delhi, but then you had to travel to your hometown or travel outside to maybe Mumbai or Varanasi for some work. On the date of your second inoculation, you can go and get vaccinated there only. You don't need to come back to Delhi to get the second shot, and then you'll get a certificate saying that you've been vaccinated completely with the two shots. So it's very simple, very user friendly, and open to everyone who's above 60 years. But if you are between 45 and 60, you need to produce a registered medical practitioner certificate saying that you have some comorbidity like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, or whatever comorbidity you have, cancer. And if that certificate is there, then you can get vaccinated even if you're between 45 and 60 years of age. So this is the exact process to be followed. I think it's quite clear, but if there are any questions, of course, I will be happy to answer. I have a set of FAQs that usually have been asked, so I'll try and answer them beforehand so that we don't need to get to questions too repeatedly. So the first FAQ that everyone asks me is, how safe are these COVID-19 vaccines? So please do rest assured that although they've been developed quite rapidly, they are very safe because they have all crossed the phase 2, and more than 1.3 crore people have already been vaccinated in India. And if they were unsafe, we would have had a lot of cases coming up which would have shown that there are some problems with the vaccine, but we have not got any. So they're very, very safe. The second question is, what if I take only one shot? Is it okay? So one shot does give you, of course, a lot of immunity, almost 60%, but the complete immunity is only achieved after about 2 weeks of the second shot. So it's very important that you do go and take the second shot when it is scheduled. What are the allergies and side effects caused by the COVID-19 vaccines? So the very mild, see, allergy can happen with anything, right? It's not just a vaccine. Anything can cause an allergy. It can be medicine, it can be a food item, it can be your shaving brush, it can be even mites in your bed sheet. So anything can cause allergy. So allergy is definitely there, a possibility. But the rest of the side effects are very mild, like pain, redness, mild swelling, mild fever, headache, mild fatigue. So these are the some of the things that you may experience after an allergy, and all of them are easily cured with just a tablet of paracetamol. So you can take that and be up and about in less than a day. Does it provide long-term protection, or will we need booster shots? This is the most important question asked by everyone to me, and very frankly, I don't know. So hopefully it will, because see, vaccination gives you cellular immunity in addition to the humoral immunity that a natural infection does give you. But we still don't know whether it will be lifelong, or it will be for a couple of years, or will we need a booster shot. That will, I think, get to know once all the data is generated and published, as I said earlier, around 2023. Who is eligible to get a vaccine? So this is slightly dated, but people above 45 years with comorbidities and above 60 years, all of them. It's not 50 years, but 60 years is the number. Uh, which of the multiple vaccines available? So I think all the vaccines are the same. You can get any. So many of my friends have got Covishield. I myself have got Covaxin. So everyone is okay. So I don't think you need to worry a lot about it. When will we achieve herd immunity? So herd immunity is usually achieved only after 65% of the people have had the vaccine. So it's still a long time away. We only have achieved only about 1% till now. So yeah, it will be a long time away. So better to get the vaccine quickly. Uh, is our vaccines that we have, Covishield and Covaxin, as effective as the Pfizer and Moderna? I think yes, of course, definitely they are, according to data as well, and according to one important factor which many of us fail to consider, is the fact that these mRNA vaccines need a minus 70-degree holding area. So their cold chains are really stringent and rigorous. I don't know if we'll be able to achieve such rigorous standards in India. So even if you do get the Pfizer vaccine, we are not very sure that by the time it gets to you, has it always been in that cold chain environment. So you may be getting the Pfizer vaccine, which may not work that well because it was out of the cold chain for a while. So do keep that in mind before trying and waiting for it and not getting the ones that are available right now. Uh, can a person presently having COVID-19 infection be vaccinated? So, see, you should not go to the vaccination center if you're currently suffering from COVID-19, more because of the reason that you will spread the disease to other people there. So, as we tell all our patients, please do stay at home, self isolate, do not venture out of the house if you're having COVID 19, and that is for the vaccination as well. Um, is it necessary for a COVID recovered person to take the vaccine? So, yes, of course, because as I said, it offers you cellular immunity as well, in addition to the humoral immunity. So, definitely very, very advisable to take the COVID vaccine, even if you've had COVID earlier. How to decide which vaccine is best? Again, a very, very common question. Everybody asks me, I would want to take the best vaccine, which is the best one? So I think it's a very individual thing. Some vaccines may be better for some others may be better for some other community subsets. We still don't know. The data is still in process. So I think having a vaccine is important. You should take the vaccine, not to worry about which vaccine to take. How quickly can the vaccine stop the epidemic? So again, I think it'll be some time before we get rid of it. The virus, if it disappears on its own, is the best, and it does have a mind of its own. So I like to compare the vaccine with a seat belt. So all the questions that you have can be answered if you just consider the vaccine as a seat belt, right? So, does wearing the seatbelt save you from an accident? No, right? So, same way, having a vaccine will not save you from the infection. You can still get infected after getting the vaccine. But does the wearing the seatbelt save you from serious injury once the accident happens? Yes. So, similarly, a vaccine will save you from severe disease, complicated disease, will definitely ensure you don't end up in the hospital, you don't go to the ICU. So the vaccine will ensure that. Does wearing a seatbelt entitle you to drive rashly and hit other people? No. So similarly, having a vaccine does not entitle you to stop wearing masks, stop social distancing, stop sanitization. So you still have to be careful, still have to follow all COVID rules and regulations and protocols even after you get the vaccine. Can a seatbelt cause you injury? Yes, we've all heard of, being doctors, we've all heard of seatbelt injuries, how they happen in accidents, but they are much minor compared to what you would have suffered if had you not been wearing a seatbelt, right? So seatbelts can cause injuries. Same way, vaccine can cause minor side effects like fever, myalgia, headache, pain at the site, but that does not mean that you don't wear a seatbelt. That does not mean you don't get the vaccine. So will you wear a seatbelt when driving? Yes, of course, I always wear a seatbelt while driving. It has saved my life for sure, and so I will definitely get the vaccine. So easy to compare and easy to understand if you just think of it as a seatbelt rather than trying different complicated questions. So thank you very much for listening me out patiently, and very happy to take any questions that you may have. I think I am on time, Shruti. So very happy to take any more questions.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I think that was a very detailed presentation on COVID vaccines, and I'm sure this has answered so many questions. And you yourself took out a very few frequently asked questions and got them answered. So there is one more question which is slightly different from what you have answered, Doctor. So the question is: can the carriers of Hep virus B, that is HBV, take this vaccine? If yes, which vaccine will be preferable? Are there any risk of cross interaction? So this is one question from Dr. Ja. Thank you so much, Dr. Ja, for posting this question.
Yeah, so carriers of hepatitis B can definitely take the vaccine. I think they have more reasons to take the vaccine because they are immunocompromised a little bit. So there is no contraindication till now published. So definitely yes, please do go and take the vaccine. There are no contraindications or any interactions published yet.
Thank you so much. I think this has also answered Dr. Sangeeta's question, which was: are there any contraindications, since there are two types of vaccines available currently in India? So I think that has been answered, right?
So the contraindications, see, there only there is a very specific subset of people that should not take the vaccine, and it is very clear. So if you are pregnant, you should not take the vaccine, not because there's any contraindication, but because of the fact that we do not have enough data for you right now, because all of these vaccines have been authorized under emergency use authorization, and they've had a limited chance to have data on various subsets of population. So no data yet on pregnant women. Similarly, no data yet on lactating women. So if you are pregnant or if you are breastfeeding your child, you should not take the vaccine. Similarly, if you are less than 18 years of age, we still do not have enough data on you. So please do wait. We should not go and take the vaccine if you're less than 18 years of age. If you've had a history of severe allergy to anything which has been life threatening, or you've had to go to the hospital because of the severe allergy, please do consult your doctor before going to take the vaccine, and do inform the healthcare workers there as well beforehand. And of course, as I said, the fourth subset is, if you are suffering from COVID-19 right now, active COVID, then you should wait till you are absolutely fine to go and take the vaccine.
Thank you so much, Doctor. So there is one more question by Dr. Amita Bell. She asks, if given a choice which has the least side effects, now that we know that the mutations are happening with rapidity, and we know that this vaccine will only be appropriate for the strain that we have, for which it was or is being prepared for, how long will the efficiency last?
So, which is the least side effects? Again, as I said, we have very little data, but as a doctor, if you were to think, I think the inactivated vaccine would have the least side effects. So Covaxin should be the one which has the least side effects. Unfortunately, Covaxin has another contraindication which is specific just to Covaxin, and which the company has brought out in its advisory. Although I do fail to understand why that reason is there. As a doctor, I do not see any reason that is there. But they say that if you are on blood thinners, so blood thinners is a very broad term. It can be antiplatelets like aspirin or clopidogrel, or anticoagulants like warfarin. So they say that if you are on blood thinners, you should not be taking Covaxin. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. But for Covishield, it is not a contraindication, so you can take that. Second, as you said, there are many mutations coming in. So see, viral mutations can be antigenic drifts or antigenic shifts. So right now, all the mutations that have come in have been drifts. They have been minor mutations affecting one or two sequences. So the vaccines are still very effective against these mutations. And I think this is the reason that the governments are scrambling to get as many people vaccinated as possible quickly, so that before the virus has a chance to completely shift and develop a completely new look, we can vaccinate most of the people, get herd immunity, and then the virus does not have anywhere to go. Then it actually dies out because it has no host available. So this is the reason I think we should all take the vaccine very quickly as soon as we get the chance, so that the virus does not get a chance to mutate that much and become like a common cold virus that we have, influenza. Then we need to get vaccinated every year. Every year new mutations are coming in, and if that happens, then we'll have to live with the virus for a very long time.
Yeah, so that was the next question by Dr. Amita Bahl again. How frequently will we need to take it on a long-term basis? So like pneumococcal vaccine or influenza vaccine have a duration for action plan and efficiency. So that was the next question, Doctor.
Yeah, so as I said, hopefully we can get rid of the virus completely by vaccinating the population as quickly as possible. Like Israel has done a great job. It has vaccinated most of its population now. India, of course, lagging far behind, but in absolute numbers, we are the second fastest. We were supposed to be the fastest, but then this vaccine hesitancy has hit us a lot. We were supposed to complete 3 crore vaccinations by 28th of February, but we've managed to only complete 1.34, which is less than half. So this is something that is of concern. But in absolute numbers, again, very high numbers. 1.34 crores itself is a big number. But we need to vaccinate as quickly as possible. If we don't, then of course the virus mutates, and then we may need to get booster shots specific to the antigen in circulation that year. So we may need to get vaccinated very frequently if if we don't manage to get rid of the virus now.
So there is one common question by Dr. Purnima and Dr. Abhiruchi, which says, diabetes and hypertension are some common things, and that might be one of the comorbidities. So are they allowed to take the vaccines?
Yes, yes. So diabetes and hypertension are actually on the priority list. So uh, if you are above 45 and have any of these comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, kidney disease, cancer, autoimmune disease, you are actually prioritized by the government, and you can go and get the vaccine before anybody else, because you really do need that.
So, what are a few do's and don'ts about taking vaccines? Should people with comorbidities or people or who are on common medications take who need to take all these vaccines? What do they need to keep in mind, doctor?
Yeah, so see, the most common do's and don'ts are, first of all, don't worry and don't panic. So worry is the worst thing that you can do. As in Hindi, we have a saying called "Chinta Chita Saman hai." So if you worry a lot, that is a problem for you. So please don't worry about it. Go in a very positive mindset. Eat healthy. Try to eat healthy. Try to rest after the vaccination. If you do get any side effects like fever, myalgia, pain at the vaccination site, swelling, then don't worry about it. A simple paracetamol will take care of it. Try to rest it out. Also, alcohol is something that you should not take after vaccination because it inhibits your immune response. So try and be off alcohol once you get vaccinated. These are the few things that you should keep in mind while taking the vaccination. If you are on blood thinners, as I said, you should not take Covaxin because there is a contraindication by the manufacturer there, but you can take Covishield. If you're on any other medicines or any other chronic disease that you might feel be a problem, please do feel free to consult your physician or tell the doctor available at the vaccination center about your condition, and he will make the best decision for you.
Thank you. Dr. Suchita Chandra asks, any data on the anecdotal reports of infects after vaccination?
So the problem is that we, as a government, have not taken the help of organizations like Step One to monitor the patients after the vaccination in large parts of the country. But Step One has started its effort in many places like Puducherry, Arunachal, to make sure that we do collect enough data for all the patients who are taking the vaccine. So I think the data will come in. Right now, we don't have any data which supports or opposes the side effects or the long term after effects of the vaccine. So all the trials have shown it to be very, very safe. But as an organization, Step One has started its efforts to collect data from everyone who's getting vaccinated to get some scientific muscle behind these trials as well.
Right. So Ramesh Anju has a question to you. He says, I got Covishield on day before yesterday. I am having all symptoms as you mentioned from yesterday. I am afraid of the situation. Please guide me to overcome. I don't have any systemic problems. So this is what he has asked.
Right, right. So do not worry at all. These are very expected side effects. I don't know if you have a young child at home, but anybody who's had young children at home will recognize that these are the same symptoms exactly that come when you go get your child vaccinated, right? Once you get the child vaccinated, you come back home, most of the children will develop some fever, inability to eat, the child will be crying, the child will have some pain, but that doesn't mean that we don't get the child vaccinated. Unfortunately, we as adults don't get too many vaccinations, so we forget that, and if we do develop some of these complications, we become really panicky and afraid. So do not worry at all. These symptoms will pass within a day or two. Do take paracetamol liberally. You can take 2 or 3 a day as well. Don't hesitate in that. So take paracetamol and you'll be absolutely fine. Don't worry and try to rest.
Can people with asthma as well take vaccines, doctor?
Yes, absolutely, they can. You should, in fact. So, if you have asthma, that means your lungs are slightly weak and more prone to infections. So, definitely, you should take the vaccine on priority.
And how long one should be off alcohol after vaccination?
So that is a question that's, as I said, most frequently asked. The Russian government has given out an advisory saying no alcohol for 45 days post vaccination. No other government has given us such an advisory. The manufacturers themselves have never given such an advisory. But we should remember that alcohol inhibits your immune response, right? So we have seen, if a person is an alcoholic drinking a lot, they get more infections, they fall more sick often, so their immunity is less. So if you drink alcohol, your immune response will be inhibited. So do try and, I mean, be off alcohol. Even if you are taking alcohol, binge drinking is a certain no-no. So you should never binge drink. You can take maybe 30 to 60 ml of alcohol, but preferably none. But yeah, so try and be off alcohol for 45 days, as the Russian government has said. But there is no formal advisory on it anywhere else in the world. So you can take a little bit, I guess.
Is ibuprofen contraindicated after vaccine?
So see, as Covaxin has said, blood thinners should not be taken. So vaccine is an intramuscular injection. It goes in your muscle, and obviously, as a needle, it will injure the muscle a little bit. And ibuprofen itself is, as a side effect, it's a blood thinner, not a main effect. So paracetamol is much safer. Ibuprofen is not contraindicated, but do try and not take it for at least 24 hours after vaccination.
Right, I think with this we have come to the end of the session. There might be a few more questions that might come in after the session as well, which we will definitely get it answered from our Dr. Shuchin Bajaj. So please keep posting and we will get them answered. So thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us on today's session and giving us the latest updates on COVID vaccine and the myths and facts revolving around it. Thank you so much for taking time off a busy schedule and doing this wonderful session for us. Any take home message for our audience, Doctor?
Be safe. Do keep practicing SMS even once you've taken the vaccine. The virus is still not gone. We have only managed to inject a very, very low percentage. So do go and get vaccinated as soon as you get the chance, but be safe even after vaccination.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Dear viewers, you know what to do. So we have another session coming next Saturday at the same time. So till then, you know what to do. Please go us and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for latest updates on COVID-19 and for some tips and everything. And for more information on Project Step One, please log into www.projectstep1.org. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor.
Bye bye. Take care.